evening, the hour being after 7:30. It's my honor and privilege to call the May 14th, 2020 school committee meeting to order. Our first order of business is a public hearing on school choice for school year 2020-2021. Dr. Goff.
Yes, like Mr. Muckley mentioned, our meeting's beginning with a public hearing on school choice. So this is a vote that must be taken annually, so the school committee goes on record as to whether or not it wishes for Walpole to be a school choice community.
May I just interrupt?
Sure.
For a minute? I think we need a motion to open the public hearing.
Correct.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gallivan, second by Mr. Breen. All those in favor? Mr. Buckley, yes. Mrs. Gallivan?
Yes?
Mr. Breen?
Yes.
Ms. Cyrek?
Yes.
Ms. Denizio?
Yes.
Ms. Muccini?
Yes.
You're only last because you're on the second page. All right, Dr. Goff.
Okay. So again, this vote, it must be taken annually, so the school committee can go on record as to whether or not it wishes Walpole to be a school choice community. My recommendation for this year is to vote not, for you to vote not to become a choice district. As you know, and especially now during the pandemic, class size is going to continue to be a concern. We're looking at, this budgetary constraints and taking a look at class size throughout K through 12. So we know that this is fluid. We're still waiting to get information from the state in terms of what our FY21 budget will be. And also that we just want to make sure that we're meeting all the individual education needs, and right now, it's just, not predictable. So that's my rationale, and I'll open it up to school committee for any further discussion.
Questions from the committee or comments? Mr. Breen.
I'd like to make a motion to not be a school choice community this year.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Breen, second by Mrs. Gallivan. Before we take the roll, Mary, do we have any public comments submitted to us on this? None. Excellent. All right, I have a motion and a second. Mr. Buckley, yes. Mrs. Gallivan?
Yes?
Mr. Breen?
Yes.
Ms. Muccini?
Yes.
Ms. Denizio?
Yes.
Ms. Cyrek?
Yes.
Excellent. Moving on to our next order of
I'd make
business.
a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you very much.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gallivan, second by Ms. Muccini. Mr. Buckley, yes. Mrs. Gallivan?
Yes?
Ms. Muccini?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes.
Ms. Denizio?
Yes.
Ms. Cyrek?
Yes.
Excellent. Very good. Moving on, we have a recognition. Walpole High School graduating school committee representative, Darcy Coleman.
Yes, Darcy's is our graduating school committee representative, so we would like to congratulate her and appreciate her on her commitment to provide the school community and the community with valuable updates on student body events. So tonight, we just want to recognize Darcy and wish her well in the future. Next fall, I believe, Darcy, you're going to be attending Salve Regina, where you're going to major in nursing. So we actually usually present this to you along with a gift, but I'll hold up the certificate.
Thank you so much.
And we'll get that out to you.
Appreciate it. I've loved these past 3 years of school committee meetings.
Thank you very much, Darcy. It's great to hear that you're going into the nursing field, which right now is such a needed frontline area of public service. Do you have any other thoughts or things to report about goings on in the final weeks here?
I have a little report about grading and current things that the students are doing at home, so I'll report on that. So, following the governor's decision to continue remote learning for the remainder of the school year, students were informed in how grading will be for both quarter 3 and 4. Quarter 3 was a numerical grade based on assignments from January 3rd through March 13th. If a student's quarter 3 grade was lower than their semester 1 average, then that became their grade. for the fourth quarter, March 16th through June 19th, and seniors' final day will be May 21st. The fourth quarter is all pass or fail, and students will pass if they have demonstrated 60% proficiency. Assignments will be put in X2 as complete or incomplete, and progress reports will be released to students on May 15th. All semester 2 classes will be pass or fail as well, and there will be no final exams. Currently, students have been taking AP exams online at home this week. The transition has been challenging, but students have been adapting very well. Registration is now open for fall sports, and students should check e-notes for more information about how impact testing will be going on this summer. Student Council has elected the 2020-2021 Executive Board. Congratulations to all elected, and class representative elections will take place when school begins in the fall. Lastly, there have been lots of ideas in consideration for planning the graduation ceremony for seniors. Mr. Imbush sent out a survey to senior parents and students about what options they would like to see be considered and when it should be held. Over 20% of students and parents said that they could not commit to a later date, so the date will be June 7th at 1 p.m. And the majority of people would like to wait and see if any restrictions are lifted on May 18th that could possibly make a change to the consideration process of the planning for the graduation. But a car parade is also being considered at this time for the well-being and safety of both parents, students, and community members. Thank you.
Excellent. Questions or comments from the committee? Ms. Coleman. Mrs. Gallivan.
First of all, thank you, Darcy. You've done a great job, and we're glad to have you here tonight. I was just curious if you're hearing anything about difficulty that kids are having taking the AP tests. I've read a little bit about some technical difficulties. I'm just wondering if you're hearing that.
Well, I believe the first AP exam was AP Physics, and that crashed for a lot of people across the country because there was a large amount of people taking it. But Ms. Dolan has also sent out a lot of information afterwards to prepare students and how they should know if their exam was completed successfully or not, and what will happen if it wasn't, and how there could be a retake if that does happen to you if it's not completed successfully.
Okay, thank you. You did a great job for us, so stay in touch with us next year, okay?
Thank you very much. I will. I appreciate everything.
Thanks, Darcy.
Thank you very much. Have a nice night.
You too.
Thank you.
Our next order of business is the superintendent report. Dr. Goff.
Yes, thank you. As I mentioned in my update that was released this morning, last Friday, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education released information for families regarding the department's ongoing guidance. And the document provides support for parents as they work to support their children at home during this closure sequence. And as always, and I say this every time, please don't hesitate to contact your building administration or my office if you have any questions or you need further support. Thank you to those who completed the remote learning surveys. They were very helpful. And I know that principals have been reaching out to family members of how they can help and asking additional follow-up questions. I also wanted to show you, if I can share my screen in response to surveys for middle school, because typically what they found is that middle school families were finding that, we're having some questions about what could they do, what could their children do who might be finishing or needing some more enrichment, which was really what they needed or was helpful at that pre-adolescent level. So when the middle school principals and staff, they've been collaborating and they've developed some great enrichment programs for our middle school students, and there's a link that was emailed to all the middle school parents to view all the options to those learners who want a little extra challenge during the next few weeks. And when the projects are submitted, then they'll receive a recognition for their efforts and a certificate of achievement from Walpole Public Schools. They told me that I might be signing a few hundred certificates of achievement, but that's fine. We said, bring it on. So these are just some of the examples. There's a Tinkercad 3D design challenge, and that's through Mr. Clifford. There's a Rube Goldberg Engineering Design Challenge. And there's also a musical STEM challenge for those students that are interested in that piece. There's a coding challenge through Scratch. And then there's also some humanities enrichment challenges. There's one for journalism, one for digital photography, for those that are interested in digital photography, those that are interested in speech and debate. That it has the contact staff members. This one's through Mrs. Sear. There's some people who love to read. There's a good book, and they're lost in a good book, or sci-fi and fantasy. And then for those history buffs, there's one on Hamilton. So it's a history-based and art challenge for them. So there's a lot of good information in here that families, middle school families received, I believe this morning. So it was nice to see, and I just want to thank the principals and the staff for their efforts to provide this enrichment opportunity to our students. As a reminder, please don't forget to complete the 2020 census. An actual count in each community really makes a difference in school aid and funding, which can impact the quality of services that are offered to all of our students. So in my weekly message, you can click a link to the flyer that'll provide more information. I also want to touch upon bus registration. Based on feedback that was received from Tuesday's email with regard to the bus registration, we've made several accommodations to better serve families, given the current challenges that many are facing. And they all received this email. So in the event that your family may need assistance with the current payment schedule, there's a payment plan that can be arranged through the business office, and there was contact information provided in that email. It's important to note that since the priority is to get an accurate count of riders in order to design the most effective routes, we're asking that all families register for the bus regardless of whether a payment is included in the registration at that time. And it's also important to note that Walpole Schools will be waiving any late fee for the 2020-21 school year. I do have to commend Mike Frisch at the business office and Kim Poirier, our transportation coordinator, for acting so quickly on this. They received feedback on Tuesday, and they had it turned around and resolved within 24 hours. So thank you, Mike, and please thank Kim for us.
Thank you.
On Monday, May 18th, we anticipate the governor will provide us with updated guidance for the gradual reopening of various businesses and industries across the state of Massachusetts. We'll use this guidance in collaboration with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, as well as our police department and our Board of Health, to continue planning for our end-of-the-year events and educational summer programming. We'll continue the decisions about these events and programs in a timely fashion, and that brings us also to graduation. Darcy, as she mentioned so nicely, she kind of did most of my work for me here. So Walpole High School conducted the survey. We had a 54% response rate, so statistically that's a good response rate. And those responses, Mr. Imbush shared those responses with all the seniors and the senior families via X2, and I believe you have a copy as well. And as Darcy mentioned, most of us would like to see some form of graduation ceremony in June. Even, some way, shape, form, or another. And others would like to have a rolling rally celebration in which they can receive their diplomas. And there was also discussion about, is there a way we can combine the two and do both? Some form of a traditional graduation with the rolling rally, either before or after. As Darcy also mentioned, there was a percentage of students, as you noticed, it was between 28, I think, for students and 31 for parents, may not be here. They don't know if they're going to be here in July or August. So therefore, in order to accommodate all students, the graduates will receive their diplomas in June. We're waiting again on May 18th so we can see what we're able to do and then work immediately with the Board of Health and the Walpole Police Department. We need to, after Monday, take a look and turn this around. And I think, and I'll turn it over to Stephen for any further comments. Based on what we hear on Monday and what we might be able to do, there's a thought of, perhaps sending out another survey, a very shortened survey about, okay, we can do these, 3 or 4 things, these options. We know virtual's off the table. Nobody wants virtual. I think that was like 77% had it as a number 4. No way, no how. So looking at and saying, okay, based on this, based on the Board of Health, the Walpole Police Department, let's look at these, 3 options and just at least gauge some feedback. We will, if we do that, we're going to want, a response in 24 hours so we can make a decision in all fairness to everybody, to our students, to our families, to us who need to plan this and plan it right. So we can make sure that we have, some type of graduation for our students. As you all know, Tuesday night, we found out Tuesday night, the Board of Selectmen voted to hold town meeting on June 20th on the football field. I was informed that the state has made exemptions for town meetings and election only. So what it reads is that legislative bodies are exempt from the limitation of gatherings of 10 or more people. But with that being said, it's really important for us to still look at all of our options. So on the 18th, again, working with the BOH, the WPD, the DPW, I know there's all these acronyms, Walpole Fire Department, everybody, to really invest in safety planning, to make sure that if we are able to do some type of graduation, that we are maintaining the safety of the people involved. Stephen, did you have anything to add?
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you?
I can, just speak up maybe a little louder.
Okay. No, I think you did a good job. I would also like to do something traditional if we could, but it will have to be under the the guidance of the Board of Health and the Walpole Police Department. So hopefully after Monday we will know a little more and we'll be able to make a better decision.
Mr. Buckley, I know there was a citizen comment or some questions about graduation. Before I finish up with the superintendent, would this be a good place maybe to move that and be able to make sure that we answered these questions?
Yes, Superintendent, if I have unanimous consent from the members, I'll just read the citizen's comment, which we received through Mary earlier in the week. I know a large part of it you've already answered in your remarks and in Stephen's, and I know you've also dialogued with the individual offline, but this citizen's comment was from Ms. Sonia Malik, and she posed 4 questions regarding the senior graduation issue. When will the high school senior/parent survey results be shared? How are the survey results going to be used to determine the senior activities plan? When can we expect to have clear communication from the high school and with specifics on all activities planned short-term and later in the year? And are there any traditional senior activities that are not being considered for the class of 2020? So as our standard practice, we usually take citizens' comments under advisement and get back to people in a timely manner with answers. I believe you've addressed a lot of that now, and we'll continue to dialogue online rather. And I know Steve is doing a lot of communication. It's the only citizen's comment I have currently. So with that, I think I can open it up to questions from the committee for the superintendent on this subject matter.
Or feedback would be fine
feedback.
too. And then I just also have wanted to just make sure to clarify a couple of these questions that I can
Sure.
ask maybe through you to Stephen.
Excellent. Any questions from the committee first? Ms. Cyrek.
I just have a question about the film festival. That was something that we had emailed about earlier, whether that would still happen at some point. I know the Walpole Media had offered to try to do something for those students. Didn't know if that was something that would, be considered at a later date, depending on what happens next week.
That's a good question, and that goes with her with these questions about, all activities, not other activities aside from high school graduation. So Stephen, I know that you have an answer a little bit about the film festival?
Yeah, and I hope you can hear me. Just let me know if I'm not coming in okay. The film festival, we will require about 2 or 3 weeks in the school building in order to finish up the movies. And so we don't have access to the building for the kids right now. And assuming we do, and we get about 2 or 3 weeks to get the movies done, we are looking at the possibility of having a presentation of those movies, perhaps in a drive-through movie theater, although they have not been given the clearance to open yet either. So we're really in a holding pattern, but we do want to try and make it happen, even if it's later in the summer in August.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions for Dr. Goff or Steve? Mrs. Gallivan?
Oh, you're on mute, Nancy.
Nancy, you're on mute.
Sorry. I would just comment that all of us are empathetic and very sensitive to the fact that the high school seniors and the parents are being good sports, dealing with information that they really don't want to hear. So, I think that the administration is really trying to listen to everybody. And unfortunately, they don't control everything, but it's not for lack of empathy. And we're really proud of these kids. So hopefully there'll be some nice ways to celebrate them. We just don't have all the answers right at the moment.
Dr. Goff?
And I do know that too, that parents have reached out to me and said that they are willing to help, they are willing to pitch in and do what they need to do to really help, because we don't know in terms of whatever we decide, what we might have in terms of staffing. So they have offered their services, and I do greatly appreciate that. I think in terms, Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong, like the other activities, as we know, Monday we'll be able to. I think there's some questions about National Honor Society. I think there's still a couple of questions out there. It might be about even prom, kids that might still be wondering. So,
on the National Honor Society, that is going to be a virtual presentation. We will have we'll be inducting the new junior members and celebrating the graduating seniors in a recorded virtual induction ceremony. We will send a link out eventually to students and families once we're able to get that together. Drama is looking at the possibility of doing a virtual drama presentation because they missed their spring play. And hopefully we'll have it cast over the weekend, and we're going to record and convert it and put it out on Rebel TV as well. We spoke about the film festival. Prom was meant to be this Saturday. Obviously that is not happening. It looks very doubtful, unfortunately, if we will be able to have the prom in June. We have a date. We have a date booked in June at Gillette, but right now Gillette don't even have the green light to have crowds. So prom really is up in the air at this point, but it's looking more and more doubtful. And again, we'll know a little more after Monday's announcement from the governor.
Thank you, Steve. Further questions or comments on this matter? Seeing none, Dr. Goff, please continue.
yes, and I just would like to end with the NEASC, that's the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. I think that you may, if not, you will be receiving a copy of a letter that was provided to Mr. Imbush. And really, for those of you that might not be familiar with NEASC, is that they're engaged in a process for accreditation. And for people that might say, well, what is accreditation? It really shows the public that a school is met as maintaining these high level of standards set by an accrediting agency, and this agency is NEASC. And it's really a rigorous and comprehensive self-reflection process, and it's followed by an on-site evaluation that's conducted by trained peers from the educational community, and then they have follow-up reporting, planning, implementation, and even with the visiting team that comes out, they conduct observations, they conduct multiple interviews with students and parents and staff members in the wider school community. They review our reports. So it really is, it's a lot of work that goes in. So I am happy to say that in the letter from their visit and looking over all the documentation, that they did vote to award Walpole High School continued accreditation in the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. They were impressed, in their letter, they stated they were impressed by the many programs and services, and they commended us with a long list. I'm just going to highlight some of them. The district's support of curriculum and writing revision, the coordination of curriculum in grades 6 through 12, the opportunities for technology in our one-to-one initiative. The television studio was noted, said that offers unique and authentic learning experiences. The implementation and use of professional learning communities to establish collaboration. The inclusion of the Pride program into instruction. They talked about teachers' practice to create common assessments and scoring rubrics. And then just our programs overall, they talked about Pride and random acts of kindness at the high school, anti-bullying groups, and also the support services that Walpole High School offers. And they most notably, they talked about the EL program that we have and working to really strive to meet the needs of all of our students. So I just wanted to just publicly thank Stephen Imbush and the staff. I know that it was a tremendous amount of work, all those reports and having visiting teams out. So it is greatly appreciated. So congratulations.
Good stuff. Is there a wider document than just a couple page? Does that come, is there like a summative
Yeah.
piece, or is it?
Yes, there is. Yes. There's a whole report, Bill, that I will be able to send to you. I'll try and get it out to you next week.
Excellent. I just forwarded, there was like a 2-page summative
Excellent.
to the committee. But one thing I thought was really good was that they noted that the strong collaboration between our body, the superintendent, and Stephen, and the way he's empowered to act. I thought that was good. I know most of the people on the Zoom call, on the school committee, were involved in an hour-long listening session as part of that NEASC and dialogue with the kind of interview team. And I think, it just shows how strongly we work together. And when you put in the work, you get results like we had this evening. So I think that's great stuff. Anything else?
Yeah,
from the
that's
superintendent?
definitely seen as a strength of our school is the support that we have from the whole school committee. So I really appreciate all the support that you give us, and it comes through in this report.
Very good. Excellent. Anything further under superintendent's report, Dr. Goff?
No, that's it.
Excellent. Moving on to agenda item number 6, old business, MSBA update.
Yes, tomorrow we're going to be holding session 2 for the visioning staff session. So that's tomorrow from 12:30 to 3:30. And that'll is with large groups of middle school teachers and staff, both from Byrd and Johnson. It went very well last round. This will be our second round. MSBA will actually be, again, on the virtual session with us. It's the first time I think anybody's done a virtual visioning session. So they've been sitting in, and there's more MSBA members who want to join, and we said the more the merrier. So they'll be with us tomorrow. And then on next Tuesday is the designer selection process with MSBA. So Mark and I are involved in that, along with Jim Johnson and the Compass team. And that will start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they anticipate that will probably go past 12 to probably about 1 o'clock. So I haven't been on a Zoom session for 4 straight hours, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So we're looking forward to it. And Mark, anything to add with that? Did I miss anything?
No, same thing. Like I said, Tuesday is going to be a long one. We'll have to turn the microphone and the camera off and just kind of listen in, I guess, so for long stretches.
Excellent. That's why you can shut these things off. Any questions or comments in the committee about where we are in the process? Excellent. Seeing none. Moving on to subcommittee activity. We had a curriculum subcommittee meeting on May the 5th.
Yes, Bill, feel free to jump in, Bill Hahn. We talked about the remote learning, just getting feedback from the school committee about remote learning, seeing where we need to, what's going well, what we can improve. And I think with all this, with remote learning, we need to be able to have, a strategy of action. And at the end of this year, look at what has worked well and what do we need to do if, we're ever in a remote learning situation next school year. What else do we need to do in order to support our students, our families, and our staff?
And along those lines, Bridget, you had mentioned earlier in your update, and we are working now. We are anxiously waiting for May 18th and more guidance from the governor's office. But we are working now to make sure that we have a summer learning program to support our students, those who need equitable access to remote learning, who weren't able to be fully access all elements of the curriculum over the summer. And we'll have an in-person and a remote learning option depending on the guidance from the governor. And then also, as you mentioned, we are planning now as well our reentry in the fall. And we know that it could look of many different ways, but just to make sure that people understand, the feedback from the survey, the feedback from the school committee, all comes into play as we make those plans for both the summer and the fall, based on where we're at right now.
Questions or comments from members who were part of the subcommittee meeting, or other thoughts? Seeing none? Excellent. We already did citizens' comments. So approval of warrants and minutes. Would someone like to take the warrants? Ms. Denizio.
Yes. I will make a motion to approve the following payroll warrant from April 30th, number 2044PA, for the amount listed in your packets.
Who was the second? I'm sorry. Cut out. Beth. Motion by Ms. Denizio, second by Ms. Cyrek. Mr. Buckley, yes. Ms. Gallivan?
Sorry, yes.
No problem. Mr. Breen?
Yes.
Ms. Cyrek?
Yes.
Ms. Maccini?
Yes.
Ms. Denizio?
Yes.
Excellent.
I'll make a motion to approve the following accounts payable warrants from May 7th, number 220045, and from May 14th, number 220046, for the amounts listed in your packets.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Denizio, second by Ms. Cyrek. Mr. Buckley, yes. Ms. Denizio?
Yes.
Ms. Cyrek?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes.
Ms. Gallivan?
Yes.
Ms. Maccini?
Yes.
Would someone like to take the minutes?
I can do that. You want me to bundle them? Well,
Yeah, go for it.
okay. I'll make a motion to approve the following bundle of school committee meeting minutes. The regular school committee meeting minutes for April 9th, 2020. Executive session meeting minutes for April 9th, 2020. Superintendent evaluation subcommittee meeting minutes of April 15th, 2020. Executive session meeting minutes for April 16th, 2020. And executive session meeting minutes for April 27th, 2020.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Maccini, second by Ms. Denizio. I only had,
Yeah, those are the wrong meeting. Did we have April 30th, executive session for April 30th and curriculum subcommittee minutes of May 5th?
Oh, maybe. Did we underneath?
so
Yeah,
it was
it
April, regular school committee minutes of April 30th, executive session of April 30th, and curriculum subcommittee of May 5th is what I have.
Yep.
Oh.
Excellent.
Well, you could read those. I have.
Oh,
that
that's
was
fine.
my-
We have we'll just amend it. I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as listed and amended.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Buckley, yes. Ms. Sarek,
Yes.
Zanizio,
Yes.
Ms. Muccini,
Yes.
Ms. Gallivan,
Yes.
Mr. Breen.
Yes.
There being no more further business on the agenda for this evening, we do have an executive session as our last order of business. But upon discussion, it looks like the meeting we will have on Wednesday, the budget workshop, would suffice, and there's a couple of other agenda items that may work better in that format. So at this time, if I have unanimous consent of the membership, we do not have a necessity to go into executive session, and any documents you may have received, just to kind of hold on to them until Wednesday for that. Does that work for everyone?
Sure.
Seeing nods. Mr.
Yes.
Breen?
So I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? I see hands.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
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 Yes, yes. 8:14.